I shot this little movie a few years ago, which nobody believed I did, by the way, because you sort of go, I've shot a movie, and people go, oh yeah, I shot a movie. And I thought I was going to be a guest on the Late Late Show next week to talk about the movie. Cut to phone call in May, would you like to host the Late Late Show? Which is just...
Yeah, who's off? How long are they off for?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how many weeks? What's happening? And I said, no, we'd like you to host. And when you grew up on that show, like I heard you guys talking about it yesterday morning.
Yeah.
You just go back to being... It's the longest running talk show in the world.
Yep.
10 years of age, as a kid, growing up in County Down.
This is too much.
Northern Ireland.
It's too much.
And when you grew up where we grew up, you needed to have 2 TV aerials. Right? So you had 1 TV aerial to go to Belfast, and that got you BBC.
Yep.
And then you have a slightly longer pole, which went up over the Mourne Mountains.
Rachel's nodding.
Right? To get RTE in Dublin.
Yeah.
And my job, right, in the 1980s, I was just the human remote control in our house, where I had to crawl in under and flick the little switch from one aerial to another to watch Gay Byrne host the Late Late Show.
Wow.
And you get that phone call and you just become 10 years old again.
I'm so happy for you.
Oh, it's...
Who knows anything? Who knows anything?
Is that not why life is brilliant? Because if you did, I mean, it wouldn't be worth going through the fun to find out.
Yeah, I mean, your journey to here. I mean, this was not a voyage that you were in charge of. It would seem.
No.
I mean, you were definitely the subject of the voyage. So congratulations, well done for climbing on board and all that other stuff. But I mean, you think of your time in America and what you've done with stand-up, and you coming back here because of what happened over there, and your childhood and all this kind of stuff. In Vassos' intro, he says it's the 61st season. It's the 61st year. That's because it's 61 years.
Yes.
This is a 61-year-old show. My goodness.
The theme tune has not changed in 60-odd years. And so to stand out the back last Friday night, and normally whenever you were a guest on the show, like when you were growing up and you used to be a guest on the show, the one show you didn't want to mess up in Ireland was the Late Late, because everybody watches it. There's no hiding place in terms of, like, you can't go, that was a bad show, and then you go back home to your little village and nobody will have seen it. You can go for a walk on the beach and nobody cares. Everybody has seen it. So you're thinking, let's not mess this up as a guest.
Yeah.
And so whenever I used to hear the drums of that intro out the back as a guest, the hair just would go up in the back of your neck. And on Friday night, to be out the back, and they did this little trick on me, which they hadn't told me about. There's a couple of things that happened were a bit of it that I didn't tell me about. So my first appearance on the show was back in 1992, I think, and Gay Byrne brought me out. It was a comedy competition. And the music starts and I'm out the back and I hear this voice and it's Gay Byrne, and they've taken the Gay Byrne intro from 1992 and gone, he's from Dundrum, County Down, would you please welcome Patrick Kielty? And I'm like, what? And they just pushed me out. I couldn't get through it. I could barely get through the opening. I was in bits.
Were you tearful?
Yeah, because people were saying, why, what attracted you to that show, and there's all the amazing things about it being a brilliant show. But for me, when you've got like 2 little boys, and they get back over to Ireland as much as they can, but for them to be able to say one day, yeah, my old fella, my dad used to host that show.
Oh my goodness me.
So it was just
for that alone.
So
do you know the backstory of the decision to call you? I mean, to me, it makes complete sense. You are the perfect person for the job. And Ryan absolutely smashed it. Gay smashed it. He wrote the book, of course. And you are perfect to as the next sort of incarnation of it. Do you know who was involved in why don't we give Paddy a call? Is it, do you think he'd fancy it?
There was a guy, Alan Tyler,
right.
Used to work on BBC Entertainment. He went over there and that's who called me.
Did they think you'd be interested or not?
Well, it was that thing of, look, we're going to revamp the show.
Yeah.
Would you be interested? And
any trepidation on your part?
Well, you're really good at this. You're probably the best person I know, which is you don't even have to answer. You just know how you feel. it's that lovely thing if somebody says, if you want to make a decision, just flip a coin.
Yeah.
And the minute you actually look, you'll know whether that was good news or bad news when you look at the...
It's whole body yes, whole body no.
Yeah. And so it was a whole body yes, and it was, how do we do this?
Yeah.
You know, would it be okay to fly in for a few days a week and do the show? Because obviously we'd moved the kids from LA, got them into schools here, didn't want to move them again.
Yeah.
So, and suddenly it was like, oh, yeah, this can work.
Yeah, because it's not transatlantic. You know?
No, and also you can, you know, in terms of Irish media and papers and all of these things, everything's online. You know, you like we're a family who like tune into a ton of stuff anyway from Ireland. So
yeah, and the thing about, you know, obviously Gay hosted it one way, Ryan hosted it another, and you'll host it differently. I had no idea you'd hosted Friday. I would have watched it. Obviously, last night I had other wonderful things on my mind. But of course, you could have, you know, accessorised that wonder. No question about that. The lily can always be gilded, especially when you're around. But it went very well on Friday. I'm hearing people have seen it. I can't wait to watch it tonight. Something else I want to say. I'm so excited for you that it's not difficult to have this conversation from many different sort of perspectives. I want this show now. I always did anyway, but I want this show now to be on in the UK at 9:00. I want it to be simulcast live, because I want to watch that show on a Friday night with you hosting. I really genuinely want to do that. Any chance of that happening?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's something that whenever Gay hosted the show, there was a Channel 4 deal which allowed that to happen. One of the things which is amazing about Friday night was we had a ton of people watching on the RTE player around the world. There was a ton of people watching on YouTube. You know, that would be amazing if something like that would happen, because you've been on the show and you know what it's like when you fly into Dublin. There's a different atmosphere. People talk to people in a different way. So different. Sometimes you can get, you know, a conversation which is meant to... It's like this show. Yeah. The Late Late Show is essentially like your radio show, which is, yeah, here's the questions, but we're going to talk. Yeah. And if it goes here, it goes here. If it goes there, it goes there, and all the better for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that only works at a certain level, doesn't it? There has to be trust there as well, between the interviewer and the interviewee. There has to be trust with the audience.
But do you not think there's another thing, which is I couldn't have hosted this show 10 years ago?
Of course.
I hadn't lived enough yet.
Without question.
And you know that. It's like I remember years and years ago being in LA and taking meetings and trying to get stuff going. And I ended up in a room, and God love this man. Like, he took this meeting. You just knew it was one of these meetings which is, we got this kid in, and can you just take a meeting with him? Yeah. And it was Robert Morton, who was David Letterman's...
Bob Morton, yeah.
Producer. And I went in and he'd seen my reel. And he said, think you're a great kid. Come back in about 15 years, we'll make a talk show. And I walked out just gutted. And he said, you know why? He said, you haven't lived enough.
Yeah, we were trying to recall. I mean, Rachel was brought up with it. I thought it started at 9 and just went on for as long as it wanted to. Have I imagined that or not?
You haven't imagined that. And so whenever I, on the first show on Friday night, and we were about to come off air, and I said to the floor manager, so what is it? Is it a 30? Is it a minute? What do I need for a wrap? He went, no. He said, just get us off air.
And nice. So Irish.
And I said, so was this thing of, you know, if something's good, it's like, oh, well, just keep going. You know, they don't tell you that,
right?
But suddenly you realise that it's in Dublin, and if you can, if that they're in charge.
It's permanently punk, is what it is.
Yeah.
So what's the flavour? Does it have a shape to it? Will it have a regular shape to it? Because as I recall, and again, it's only what I recall. You know, what do I don't know. Most of it might be imagined. You know, it's quite showbiz, and then it's a bit less showbiz, and then you have a bonfire at the end, which can get quite heavy and serious as the night goes on. Is it still like that?
There's a little bit like that. I would say Rachel might know more about this. The Late Late Show, for me, if you're staying in on a Friday night in Ireland, it's essentially the same as going out to your local pub.
Right.
So you could come in, there could be a fun chat with somebody that will make you absolutely howl with laughter. Somebody could come in and have bad news. You'll sympathise with them. Everybody will give each other a hug. That person will then tell something funny about what happened to them in the midst of their despair. Everybody will laugh. Somebody will sing in the corner. Then you might argue about politics. You might fall in and fall back out again. And so it's essentially a night out in Ireland on the TV.
Right. And it's all the fun plates, and you get to spin them.
Yeah.
Wow, the fun and some. So was this ever on your radar?
Never.
Because you are perfect for it, don't you think so?
Oh, completely.
You're perfect for it, Paddy.
Look, I had never dreamed that this would come my way. And it's a show, you know how this works. There are certain shows you just don't ask for. Yes. You know, it was like a weird thing, when Ryan said he was leaving and that was it, and he had his big send-off. I mean, you don't ring anybody for that show.
So what did people think was going to happen next? What did you think was going to happen next to the
I had no
Late
idea.
Show?
I was sitting in the house. I was saying to Kat, I wonder who's going to get that.
That's the funniest thing anybody's ever said to me since I've been doing this for a living in an interview. That's literally the funniest thing I've ever heard. So, you'll be wondering who's going to get that then, won't you?
God, who's going to get that?
Which is so Irish. That's such an Irish thought.
And the thing about it is...
Please tell me Kat looked at you and went, do you really have no idea who they might be calling next?
Well, the thing about it is she knows about the show, but she, wouldn't have known who may have been top of the list in Ireland or whatever for the show. So she was like, yeah, that's it. My wife humours me a lot.
So when it happened, tell us about you telling her. Where were you when you got the call?
Where was I? I just walked out of a dinner. I was in central London.
Right.
And I had an early dinner, and I came out and I was on the street, and I got this phone call.
Right.
And I recognised the number. I'm going...
So you're literally you finished dinner. You haven't stepped out to take the call.
No, just having dinner and came out and I was like, oh, I'll say hello here, and I said, how you getting on?
I'm fine. Wait till you hear what I've got to ask you.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'd ordered my Uber, and it was sort of it was going round. So he was on the Uber was on the phone, and he was sort of trying to find me, and he was going round in circles, and I'm sort of standing on the street. And what was brilliant about it was, because you're standing in London, nobody knows what the show is. So I'm just standing on the street going, what, the Late Late Show? And of course, people just walking past, and no one cares. Like that's not a chat you could have had on the street in Dublin.
Is it honestly? Because people would be like, "Oh, that's Patrick Kielty. He just did a Late Late Show out loud. 2 and 2 is 4.
Yeah,
definitely
maybe.
not 5.
Yeah.
And so what? So how did you? What? So you got in the taxi, I presume. You found the taxi.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Got in the taxi, and I said, "Look, you do know I'm here, and how would it
Carrying on?
Yeah,
the phone call.
So
in the taxi.
Yeah, how would it work?
Sorry.
How would it work in terms of, and what the format's going to be, and when would you need me to do the show, and so just sort of, it was one of those things. In principle, it was a yes. And then you know what it's like. Sometimes in principle, yes, when you're trying to put all the building blocks in place. And lucky enough, we were able to, put them in place.
Yeah, but if you've got a big enough why, you'll always find a how. I love that.
This is why this man is the GOAT.
And so you arrive home.
Yeah.
Cat's at home.
Yeah.
Hi, darling.
Hi.
Good day.
Yeah. And I said,
good dinner.
We were wondering who's.
No, you didn't. Did you actually?
I said, we were wondering who was maybe gonna. I said, they've just rang me up there, and I wondered if I'm interested in doing it. And at which point she was like, so she gave me that look, which was, well, I mean, you probably thought they were going to ring, did you not? And I was like, no.
All right, so she did then.
So in her head, she probably knew your man's got the skill set to do this.
Of course you have.
But he clearly hasn't the brain to work out the call might be coming in.
This is what you do for him. Ryan, amazing interviewer, fantastic host on radio and telly, fantastic presenter, clever, intuitive, informed, all that stuff. You have those tools in your tool shed as well, but you've also stood in front of people and you've been funny with a microphone.
It's kind of the chat show equivalent of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Your doctor's going to be different.
Yeah.
And so you can only bring what you have to the dance.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you walk out and you have that thing of, you're used to standing in front of a quarter of an inch of microphone cable and saying, here's what I think's funny, what do you think?
Yeah.
And loads of people say that's the hardest job in the world.
Uh-huh.
I remember Carl Frampton, the boxer. He said to me, I don't know how you do that. I think that's the hardest job in the world. You get punched in the face for a living. So even with those skill set, to walk out on that Friday night was it took all your powers of concentration there. I remember the first stand-up gig I ever did, I was like 15, 16. It was the Christmas concert at my school. And I didn't want to, I had no interest in doing this. I used to do voices and used to do impressions of teachers, and I'd throw in the odd Billy Connolly and wee bits and pieces. And at the back of the bus, and the teacher came to me and he said, "You doing the Christmas concert?" I said, "I'm not." I said, I just can't. I'm petrified.
I'm saving myself for the late show.
Right. And I went home and I said to my dad, I said, "I don't want to do this." And he said to me, "Just lean on the leg that shakes the most." And that is the most practical bit of advice. So to sit and watch the show, 10 years of age, with my dad, obviously now gone, to stand out the back, hear those drums, and in my head was, Jack Kielty says, lean on the leg that shakes the most. And that got me through.
Lean on the leg that shakes the most. So you've done show one.
Done show one.
You signed up for how many years?
3 years.
3 years, okay. So it was probably 120 shows, maybe 40 shows a year, something like that.
I think it's 30 shows a year, maybe the few specials or something.
100, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
What have you learned from the first one? What are you going to take into the next one? The road is long, so, nothing is urgent, but everything's important. What do you think?
What I learned from the first one is that you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy it. I used to get really, really frantic before a show, and whenever I first came to see you do your stuff, and everybody's just and then you come off and you go, that was amazing. Did I enjoy it? I don't know. I think I did.
Yeah, I'll know in 10 years' time.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you get to 10 years' time, and you so I just knew that the one thing I wanted to do was have those nerves before you walk out. But if you're not enjoying it, nobody else is. And what's the point in having a big opportunity like that unless you walk out and try to enjoy it? Yeah,
nobody wants to see a competition winner hosting a show for more than 5 minutes. But for that 5 minutes, they definitely want to see the competition. But after that, they need the host.
After that, there comes a point when the pilot comes on and you hear the pilot's voice.
It's always defer to the aviation industry. Yeah. Black box thinking.
It's that thing.
It's saved a few lives.
Yeah, it's like, here I am. I'm delighted to be here. So it's that thing. If you got to be in charge.
Yeah, sit back and enjoy the flight.
Yeah.
I'll take care of business up front.
Yeah.
Wow.